But we begin with the war in Iran. The U.S. and Iran continue to threaten each other as thousands of U.S. forces arrive in the Middle East. More than 3,500 troops, I should say, including 2,500 Marines, arrived in the region just over the weekend. This as the war enters its second month. And there's still mixed messaging from President Trump. He voiced optimism about talks with Iran, then issued new threats to the Iranian regime. He posted on social media, you see some of that here, threatening to attack Iran's power plants, oil wells, and Karg Island if a deal is not reached soon. Just yesterday, he was asked about the U.S. strategy.
Are you considering still putting boots on the ground, and would you do that without going to Congress?
I just have lots of alternatives. We have tremendous numbers of ships over there. We don't need them all because of, the power. Look, I would say we're just like we're ahead of schedule on the ballroom. In a much bigger way, we're ahead of schedule with Iran.
Now, earlier, the president told the Financial Times he may send troops to Karg Island to, quote, take their oil, but acknowledged that would also mean the U.S. would have to be in Iran for a while. Meanwhile, the White House has not denied a Washington Post report that the Pentagon is preparing for weeks of ground operations. Instead, they say it's the job of the Pentagon to make preparations, but it does not mean the president has made a decision. Iran has said if the U.S. launches a ground invasion, it will set up attacks on the U.S. allies. In fact, this oil refinery in Israel is the latest target of Iranian strikes. Let's go live to the Middle East and CBS News senior foreign correspondent Holly Williams. So, Holly, what is Iran saying about all of this?
Hey there, Mugo. Well, Iran has previously said that it has dismissed an American ceasefire plan and that it is not negotiating with the US. So that's obviously in direct contradiction to some of the things that we've heard from President Trump. Iran also continues to issue fierce warnings against any American ground forces setting foot on its territory. A spokesman for Iran's powerful Revolutionary Guards did not mince words. He said any American ground troops who enter Iran will be taken captive, dismembered, and end up as food for the sharks in the Persian Gulf.
Wow. President Trump is claiming there's already been regime change in Iran, but are there even any indications that that is true?
I mean, not really. I mean, President Trump has said that, or words to that effect previously. What he seems to mean is that because several of Iran's top leaders have been killed by airstrikes, that amounts to regime change, and perhaps one of the goals of this war has been achieved. We don't know exactly why he's saying that. Possibly he's anxious to make that point because the war is not particularly popular with Americans, and maybe because he's aware that questions will be asked at some point about what this war has achieved long term. But it's unlikely that any close watchers of Iran would think that regime change has taken place. The Islamic Republic is still there. It's been there since 1979. Look, many people here in Israel desperately want regime change in Iran. They see the regime as an existential threat to them and their country because of its nuclear program, because of its ballistic missiles, because of its ideology. But certainly nobody that we have spoken to here thinks that regime change has already taken place in Iran.
Okay, and Holly, I also want to ask you about this because Yemen's Houthis, they are claiming responsibility for attacks on Israel. Does this raise concerns that the war is now widening in the region?
Yeah, I think it does. Look, the Houthis are an Iran-backed group in Yemen, so they're an Iranian proxy group. They've now entered this conflict, firing missiles at Israel. Now, why is that important? Well, energy prices are already soaring because of the war, because Iran has control over the Strait of Hormuz. The Houthis control territory in Yemen that is adjacent to the Red Sea. That's another critical waterway that carries oil, much like the Strait of Hormuz. On top of that, the Houthis have a history of hijacking and attacking ships on the Red Sea. You may remember that we saw that during the war in Gaza.
All right, Holly Williams in Tel Aviv for us today. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.